And I think me and JP go first. Get through ours. You can give your complaints. JP can give his 2 complaints with mine, and then we can get to yours.
Take it away, Jack.
Cool. I believe my top 5 is still the same. And then a bunch of teams slide up a little bit because I had Georgia Tech and Miami sitting at 6 and 7, and they both lost this weekend. So they end up dropping, and they're replaced by Oregon and Ole Miss. Notre Dame is right there. Then Texas Tech at 9, BYU at 10 to round out the top 10.
Sorry, I'm looking at a different ballot.
Yeah, sure. It took me a second to get that. Virginia's at 11, followed closely by Louisville, who they beat at 12. Georgia Tech falls to 13. It's their first loss of the season. It's not a good loss, but everyone's losing these days, so I'm not just gonna plummet their ranking for one loss. Texas at 14, they move up 6, right in front of Vandy at 15, who they beat by 3 at home. Oklahoma up to 16. Missouri's at 17. One of the harder teams I have to rank is Missouri. I don't really know how I feel about them, but they're sitting at 17. Iowa up to 18. Memphis to 19. Dominant performance by Iowa against a team I really like in Cincinnati, so they are now re-ranked for me at 20. Miami drops all the way down to 21. And because of my dislike for Mario Cristobal, I really wanted to drop them all the way out. But I did not.
Yeah.
James Madison at 22, and then a couple teams rejoining the rankings. And then I believe with USC at 23, I think this is Pittsburgh's first appearance for me at 24.
That seems right. I don't remember having
They've
seen
looked
them
like
before.
a new team since just changing quarterbacks to their freshman. I'm not even going to try and say his last name.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it either.
It's like German or something like that.
Yes.
And then North Texas at 25 after a good win for them against Navy, and that's what I have. Any complaints, disagreements?
No, I mean Missouri
Sure.
in there, but you were of the philosophy you want to see them lose before you drop them. I'm
Ole
not.
Miss isn't even too high, JP?
No,
I think he has them in the same
Ole
spot.
Miss
Wow.
is properly
So-
ranked at 7th in the country.
That's a first.
I think you are sliding one team.
Sure.
Kennesaw State should be ranked personally.
my first team out. They're my first team
Okay.
out. So
That's good.
if they win next week, someone's inevitably going to fall out, and they can find their way in.
I will say to talk on them, what a turnaround for them in year 2 now in FBS football. Last year they were really, really poor. They fired their coach, Coach Bonahan, who had literally had them in the FCS playoffs for 4 years running, and now they are 6-2. They're 4-0 in Conference USA. So they're right up there at the top of Conference USA, meaning they could fight for a playoff bid.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't, even at 10-2.
Sure.
Their 2 losses are a blowout loss to Indiana, which happens to everyone apparently, and a 1-point loss to Wake Forest, where they missed an extra point early in the game. And that's the only reason they lost. Otherwise, it would have gone to overtime. And I'll go ahead and say that the Owls would have beat Ashford in overtime. But other than that, no problems with your ballot. We can go ahead and get into my ballot.
Cool.
Sure. Welcome in, Tucker.
My ballot is nearly identical, unironically. Just a few splitting of hairs and difference of just where teams are ranked. But in general, it's almost identical. Ohio State's the best team in the country. They deserve to be number 1. And even people like Josh Pate, who rank via resume, have continued to leave Ohio State at number 1 in the country. They are the best team in the country, both analytically, eye test wise, you name it. That's the best team in the country. Indiana's number 2 right now for me. Nothing else changes until we get to 7, where I had 3 teams lose. I guess we all had 3 teams lose in Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, Miami,
Yeah.
who were all in this range. So I'm going to give, as the BYU guy in the pod, BYU the highest ranking out of the 3 of us.
Sure.
At 8th in the country, as they will face off against Texas Tech on Saturday, who is number 9, in Lubbock, on College Game Day, on ABC. Yes, BYU Texas Tech has gotten the ABC game before Georgia, Mississippi State, and Starkville. What a world we live in. Go Cougars, but shout out CT. Notre Dame slides into the top 10. It's crazy. to think that like we've gotten at this point in the season, they slide in there. I continue to think it's an interesting argument. Like, what if the Miami or the Texas A&M game had been last week? Would they be sitting here at 10, or would they be lower down where like an Oklahoma is or a Texas is? But here they are sitting at 10 for me. I don't remember where they are in the AP. I'm sure they're pretty high.
I can check
there.
while you keep talking.
I think it's 12, if I'm not mistaken. Louisville and Virginia sit there at 11 and 12. I have Virginia ahead of Louisville because they beat Louisville. Texas ahead of Oklahoma because they beat Oklahoma. And then we have Tech, Vanderbilt. I have JMU sitting at 17.
Go Dukes.
Go Dukes. Agreed. They look poised to potentially get the Group of 5 bid. I don't think they're not the favorite given the American teams.
Sure.
With Memphis and USF and even North Texas. But I think they're the best of those 4 teams, so I have them ahead of those 3 teams in Memphis, USF, and Texas, or North Texas. Miami drops all the way down to 21. They still have a win over Notre Dame, which is one of the better wins in the country. USC slides back into 22. Utah, with an impressive blowout of Cincinnati, slides into 23. Iowa is in there at 24, and then the Kennesaw State Owls, where my dad is a professor at,
Go
slides
Owls.
in at 25. Yes, go Owls. Hootie Hoo is their catchphrase down there on the campus of Kennesaw State. Also a campus that Lionel Messi has practiced at.
That's
That's
crazy.
cool.
He has practiced on their soccer field before playing in a game in the Benz in Atlanta for Inter Miami. And that is my top 25.
Cool.
I have no real complaints.
Yeah, I
It's
like the
very
Kennesaw
similar to mine.
State story. It was a really weird when they fired their head coach, and I think a lot of people were really upset because it was like
Rightfully so.
he was dominating the FCS. He gets to the FBS level and has he's halfway through a bad year.
Yeah.
And they fire him, and I remember thinking, and I feel like the general consensus was like, you put him in a very tough situation. He's got FCS resources, and you expect him to win at the FBS level, and when he doesn't, you fire him. And what a crazy turn of events that they might have been right in that they had the resources to compete at the FBS level, going 6-2 or starting 6-2. So, fun story to keep our eye on as the season goes on.
Yes.
They're competing at the FBS bridge level. That is the Conference
Yes,
USA,
that's
Correct.
fair.
which is still very impressive. But the Conference USA is pretty weak.
How many recent FCS teams did Conference USA have at this point?
They have Missouri State.
They've got
They have
Kent
Delaware,
State.
who just joined this year as well.
They have Kent State.
Kent State's in the MAC.
Yeah.
Mac. Okay.
KSU. And
I don't
know
how
off the
recent
top of
the
my
other
head
ones
how
are,
recent the other ones are. Yeah.
Okay.
but definitely multiple of the newer ones.
It's the bridge.
Sam
though.
Houston, I believe,
Sam
is
Houston,
a recent
yes,
addition.
this year because they joined with.
No, that was Missouri State and Delaware.
So maybe they were last
Sam
year.
Houston
Yeah,
then?
was
they were
last year. if I'm
last
not
year.
mistaken.
Yeah, so multiple, basically brand new FBS teams. Also, the Raiders just failed a 2-1 conversion to win, so they
Oh,
lose.
Schubert.
They
Wow.
lose 30-29 in overtime.
Hey, good win for the Jaguars.
I was so close to being right, but not to be.
My Raiders 2-15 prediction looking more and more possible.
I don't know.
Still really unlikely.
It is.
Brock being back made that team look very different offensively.
Why aren't you getting flack for that? And I'm getting flack for the Panthers, but
Well,
I
because
digress.
the Panthers are winning and the Raiders are not. So
There's still so much time for the
I
Raiders.
know there is.
I don't think Raiders fans exist.
are the Panthers
Which
winning?
is just cap. They do
let's.
exist.
Do we want to get into my top
Yeah,
25?
yeah. Get onto your top 25. Why don't you?
I'll throw it up on the screen and then I got to pull it up. I know that
Shma.
my top several teams are unchanged, including Indiana sits there at 1 still. Texas A&M is still at 2, and Ohio State is still at 3. As a matter of fact, my top 5 are unchanged. And then, yeah, JP talked about we all had teams that lost with Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, and Miami. So a bunch of teams get to move up as a result of that. Texas Tech, Ole Miss, UVA are all pretty big jumpers. And then Oregon and BYU round out the top 10. Louisville at 11, Vanderbilt at 12. Miami drops down to 13, ahead of Notre Dame, who they beat earlier this season. Texas at 15, Oklahoma 16, Georgia Tech 17. Georgia Tech drops a lot to 9 after their loss to NC State on Saturday. And then USC at 18 jumps Michigan. Missouri at 20, Cincinnati drops down to 21, and then three AC teams: Memphis, USF, North Texas, and then James Madison round out the top 25. JP, fire away.
Yeah, so Virginia has the 8th best resume in the country, even better than
That's what's
our second school, BYU.
stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Because even just like they're one in front of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're both one-loss teams. UVA loses to an NC State team. Oregon has lost to Indiana.
Who is your number 1 team in the country?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then
3 weeks running.
neither of them really have crazy impressive wins.
Right.
So
But I like UVA's. I do like some of UVA's wins more than I like Oregon's wins. Like I like the Louisville win. I like the Cal win that they just got.
Sure.
I really do like the Cal team a lot, and maybe that's a fault of mine, but I think that that's a good win for them at Cal. And then also, I don't think the Oregon team has looked like they've looked questionable.
Neither
they
has the
still have a
UVA
lot
team.
of they still have a lot of opportunities to prove themselves the rest of the season, and could easily finish inside the top 5, depending on how the season plays out and who wins and who loses. But yeah, right now I've got UVA ahead of Oregon and BYU, because BYU is undefeated. But I think that they've got. I still like UVA's 2 wins. I think that BYU's big wins are on a comparable level to UVA's.
I mean, Virginia lost to a 5-4 team, but I digress. Vanderbilt has a better resume than Texas.
So it's close because of the head-to-head, but Vanderbilt does have the win over Missouri, the win over LSU. Texas, they did beat Vanderbilt, but that was kind of like their first
and
big.
Oklahoma, you have ranked.
True. So, yes, that is close, but Vanderbilt, that was a close loss at Texas, and so I'm going, yes, they did win, but, yeah, I still have Vanderbilt as a top 12 team with the 12th best resume.
Huh. Why is Georgia Tech so low? If Virginia gets to lose to NC State, and that be their only loss, and then Georgia Tech gets to lose to NC State, and that be their only loss, why does Georgia Tech sit at 17 and not 9th or 8th or 7th?
Because they have not played the same ACC competition that UVA has. So they've got that win over Clemson, but Clemson is now potentially not going to make a bowl game.
Okay, but that was still Clemson at the time.
It was Clemson at the time, but
We can make the same argument for Virginia against Florida State.
yeah. But I just don't like. I think they've played an easier ACC schedule.
If you want to use that argument too, you can go to Vanderbilt and talk about Missouri and LSU
Yeah.
and South Carolina. Their 3 best wins. So I don't know if I like that one.
Yeah. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me either, because even like I get their wins aren't very good, but like UVA's aren't either. Like Georgia Tech has beat Duke, and I think Duke's a better ACC win than any ACC win Virginia has, for example.
Yeah.
Because that Duke team likes to shoot themselves in their foot, but they have a quality squad. They know how to score. They're coached by Manny Diaz, a good defensive guy. They can scheme some stuff up. So that discrepancy seems a little large to me as well.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, biggest thing that sticks out for me is Cincinnati still being ranked at 2 losses.
Yeah.
Without really a big win, and you get trounced by Utah, and then Nebraska. That win keeps getting worse. They pick
That
up another
loss?
loss, that loss.
Yeah.
Keeps getting worse as Nebraska has lost yet another game.
Yeah.
So
I think that once you get past 20, like none of these teams have like a top 15 win. Like these are all teams that like it's hard to make it like none of them have great wins, right? And they all
Sure.
have losses. And so it's just kind of measuring that. And I gave Cincinnati, I kept them in the top 25 because they've got wins against Iowa State, which Iowa State at the time was a good team, right? They were 4-0 or something. So, they started 4-0. So they were 4-0 at the time. If we're going to do that.
But it's like sometimes I feel like you do that and sometimes you don't.
Well, they also have wins at Kansas, and they have a win against Baylor, who are 3 teams those are 3 teams that I think are good. And also, this is the case to keep a team at 21 ahead of 4 G5 teams, like who have wins against each other. USS got the Florida win,
Sure.
which is great.
Memphis beat Arkansas. SEC win.
True, but it's kind of like that's the last P4 team before you get to a group of G5 teams that I think none of them have like a outstanding win that's better than Cincinnati's wins.
Yeah. I just feel like, for example, even like a team like Iowa could be there. Teams with better resumes, but it's really not. I mean, it does get a little murky in the 20s. So,
And I will say SMU has a top 15 win. NC State has a top 15 win. And Arizona State also has a top 15 win.
NC State has 2 top 15 wins.
Even better.
Yeah, they've got
Now they have
UVA
4
and
losses.
Georgia Tech. Yeah,
But
yeah.
they do have a couple of top 15 wins. That's all I got, though. We can move on.
Cool.